Mary Me, Annie here, and welcome back to Tarot Together. And our topic for this video is the Fool's Journey or not. Oh, I'm starting it off with that little bit of sarcasm because often when you read contemporary books on the tarot, and there are so many wonderful contemporary books on the tarot, you'll see a phrase often repeated, that the Fool's Journey is the traditional phrase that describes at least the major arcana of the tarot. That's simply not so. The phrase Fool's Journey, we'll get to in a little bit, was created probably in the 1970s, but it was inspired by Waite's description of what that travel through the major arcana might be, because he distinctly set up his version of the major arcana as a step-by-step process through life. I have a quotation here from him that he wrote in relationship to this traveling from the beginning of the major arcana to the end. He wrote, "The Fool signifies the consummation of everything, when that which began his initiation at 0 attains the term of all numeration and existence." Oh, this is so typically Waite, I know, but listen to the next part. "This card," it's the Fool, "passes through all of the numbered cards and is changed in each, as the natural man passes through worlds of experience and worlds of successive attainment." The journey, the beginning, and the traveling, and the destination. The concept of the Fool as a visionary, as a pilgrim, as a traveler, and therefore you and me as a pilgrim and a visionary and a traveler. It's one of those parts of the collective consciousness. All throughout history, throughout all spiritual paths, there are tales of sharing the wisdom of the world, which have to do with a hero that makes a journey far away, a journey into the underworld. It's a journey that always requires that the hero come back completely changed. For those of us in the Wiccan tradition, think of Inanna's descent into the underworld. Everything she had to give up along the way, and what that stood for, in order to return to where she left, but completely changed. That's part of the history of humanity. Those stories told endlessly. Robert O'Neill, on a wonderful web page, and in fact, I'm going to link you to that here. Does a lot of explorations into the concept of the journey throughout all kinds of cultures and religions. And he referenced, there existed at the time of tarot's origins a rich tradition of visionary journeys. The power of that. Stop and think, a visionary journey. Journey as movement, and movement by choice. And journeys also, the journey that happens whether you wanted it to or not. Sometimes whether you were aware of it or not. It's everything which happens to us, planned and unplanned, throughout the length of our lives. And equally importantly, it is what we make of that. It's the power of 0. 0, the number outside numbers, a number which is not a number, the beginning and the ending when it comes to the tarot. Often the Fool is numbered 0. Sometimes he has no number. Even as 0, though, he can be at the beginning or the end of the major arcana. He is what he is as he begins, and he is what he is as he ends, but there's no ending. His ending is a beginning of another cycle of learning. This traveling, the sense of progressing from one place to the other that has a purpose to it. It's the ladder of creation of the Neoplatonists. The idea that we progress through levels of experience. And there's a purpose to it. It's higher attainment and enlightenment, understanding of the Godhead. For some of the influences on the tarot, it's the Christian influence of the concept of coming to know, having direct knowledge of the soul which is born within us. And what we experience in order to remember that, to connect to that. We don't all connect to that concept because it is rather distinctly, if not uniquely. No, it's not uniquely. But in the tarot, it's a very heavy part of this Christian symbolism, this connection to the soul's journey. But for those of us on the pagan path, think of that as a journey that involves the direct knowledge of who we are and who we are in relation to everything which is not us. That probably is how you and I, if we're pagan brothers and sisters, would look at the concept of the soul and our remembering what it is. Angeles Arrien, favorite author of mine, referred to the journey as a map of consciousness. I have a quote for you because I loved it. The tarot represents a facet of the total life experience incorporating the practical, everyday world with the spiritual growth and evolution of each person. This is my favorite part of the quote. Basically, the tarot reflects the opportunity that each individual has to visually see that life is a process of taking the mystical path with practical feet. The journey that is taking the mystical path with practical feet. We gain wisdom in order to return to the everyday and live it more meaningfully. That's part of the journey of the tarot. If it is a higher spiritual journey for us, that's true. But additionally, through the experience of our living, we gain wisdom to aspire, to understand, or to come in touch with whatever's beyond that, mystery or the Godhead, however we see it, even if we don't see it and we are just yearning for it. This sense of traveling the length of the major arcana is also the experience of the magnum opus, the great work of alchemy, personal and spiritual transformation, the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, arriving at a sense of wholeness and perfection and completeness and bliss. Back to the phrase, the fool's journey. Everything I've mentioned up until now is part of the traditional understanding of tarot cards, going back to the first writings that were written about them. Before that, the oral traditions that came along with the interpretations of the cards. And then, in the 1970s, Eden Gray coined the specific phrase, the fool's journey, in her book, The Complete Guide to the Tarot. She didn't spend a lot of time in that book referring to it. It was actually the title to a page in the epilogue. But, oh, where that phrase has gone since then. Definitely part of our New Millennium, New Age understanding of the tarot. When we refer to the fool's journey, we may or may not be including any of the things I mentioned to now. But we probably, at the minimum, have an understanding of it as she presented it, and then it's been presented ad nauseum since then. And here's how she captured it in that little bit of an epilogue to her book in 1970. The fool represents the journey of every man, which, after it is clothed in a body, appears on Earth and goes through the life experiences depicted in the 21 cards of the major arcana, sometimes thought of as archetypes of the subconscious. Let each reader use his imagination and find here his own map of the soul's quest, for these are symbols which are deep within each of us. How's that as a summary that equaled her bringing to us the phrase, the fool's journey? Robert Place refers to the concept of the fool's journey as the story of the tarot. It's the tale it has to tell. It is our tale. Every one of us is part of that story. It provides us with the opportunity to look at the cards in order, from birth until death, from inception to discovery, and the cycle of that over and over again. Although order, meaning from 0 to 21, really is indefinite. At any moment, we are at some point along the length of the story on our own individual fool's journey. And we don't take on discovery of ourselves and the world in the order of the cards. But the story told in the tarot leads us through a progression of enlightenment for the fool, which reminds us where we've already been and encourages us to explore all those steps as we might find them in our lives. The journey, the fool's journey, it's a way of relating the cards one to the other. It's a way of putting ourselves, we are the everyman and the everywoman, into the story. The majors that I suggested and how to study, you take on first before you add in all the minors on top of that. They're all the philosophies and goals and aspirations, the steps to wisdom along the length of any one of our lives, the things we need to come to a place of expertise regarding. The minors, they're how we get to those places. But first we have to have in mind, along the fool's journey, what places we might aspire to in order to expand our experience of living and our connection to our own selves at a deeper level, to the world around us and the people in it, and as a spiritual tool to what is greater than all of that. For me, the fool's journey is the hero's journey, because I'm highly influenced by Jungian psychology. It goes back to those earlier examples I gave you of what the progression of the majors might be. There is someone, you and me and the fool, who goes through instances in life, with the length of our lives, experiencing life fully, exploring it fully, learning from it, sacrificing to it, being nurtured by it, and arriving to a place of understanding, at least here, now, and again. It's about awareness and self-realization, awareness of ourself and ourself in relation to. It's the journey to wholeness and the union with something greater. It's the wonderful paradox of the fool is totally selfish and true unto his or herself, but at the same time they're one with all of existence. The fool's journey, or not, I offer that as a consideration only because you may or may not call it that, but it's a darn good phrase to describe the journey through the major arcana. As always, your comments are welcome below, and they are welcome on our Facebook group. The end of the video links you to information how to join us there. Mary Part.